Hello, everybody, and welcome back. Thank you very much for joining me. In a recent podcast, I shared a Freedom of Information request that showed that there were over 15,000 large Puma or Panther-like cats that had been reported to the authorities in the Staffordshire area between the years 2008 and 2017. That figure seems startling, to say the least. But if, like me, you receive hundreds of reports in a year of non-native big cats here in the UK, it pales in comparison to the reports being taken by big cat experts. People in the UK have taken to sharing their experiences with the newspapers as these large cats are becoming closer and closer to our homes. Dog walkers, hikers, ramblers are all coming forward with their experiences and stories that's happened over the years with large cats here in our country. Now, I could sit down and debate whether our government knows or not, you know, but that doesn't really help in any way. It's great for safe Facebook, or forums, but it doesn't make people aware of the real dangers these cats present. More and more people are reaching out as they are being stalked in our rural places, and many a dog walker have reported being followed back to their car, and they felt both themselves and their pets were at risk. In April of 2019, I became aware of an attack on a family dog at home when this story hit the newspapers. The headline was "Dog Attacked by a Panther Before Owner Has a Terrifying Encounter with a Big Cat in Cornwall." Fears have been raised for the safety of children and pets after a dog was said to have been attacked by a panther or puma, which later ran at the dog's owner. The big black cat is said to be stalking a Cornish village where several pet cats have disappeared, and one dog has been left bleeding from its injuries and with claw marks on its shoulders. Police and the RSPCA have confirmed that they have attended the scene. Specialist forensics officers have taken casts of paw prints measuring about 5 inches and said these have been confirmed by the animal charity to have been from a big cat. A local farmer has also apparently discovered the cat's den on his land. Now, James Stevenson, whose dog was attacked, said people needed to be aware because it could take a child next, and he recounted his own harrowing experience with the animal. James, who was 23 at the time, said there had been talk of the beast in his village of Harrow Barrow for a few weeks before the incident took place. He then spotted the beast and it attacked his Labrador, Marley, 2 days before the terrifying moment he came face to face with it himself. James, who lived with his mother Tricia in the village of Callington, said he was in his garden with Marley and his collie puppy Maisie when the beast struck. He said, "Over the last couple of weeks, we've seen this large black cat walking down the back wall of the field at the back of the garden. It's on a stone wall, often carrying something the size of a lamb in its mouth. Whatever it's been carrying is about a foot off the ground, so it's very big and heavy. We've not paid it much attention because, big cats normally shy away from humans. We're not sure whether it's a puma or a panther, but it has been confirmed that it's a big cat. We're under the impression that it's a puma. We went round to warn the neighbours to tell them to keep their dogs inside, keep their children safe. And they also think that they've seen something that like the panther. They normally come out at night in order to not blow their cover," James said. "But this one is out any time of the day because it's adapted to its surroundings. It got our attention most when we were out in the garden. Marley is a rescue dog and he has almost an acre of garden now because before he lived in a confined space and he loves the big garden. He walks around to make sure it's safe and secure every night. It's a routine to make sure that him and his family are safe. He was walking towards the far end of the garden and I'm about 20 feet from him and he was suddenly taken down to the floor as if his legs had given way underneath him, like he'd been pulled down. He's a very agile dog, very careful. I thought he tripped on something and hurt himself. I called him back and he was already on his way beside me with his tail between his legs in fear. He was covered in blood. He had a big, deep gash on his front left leg and one between his toes. One of his shoulders, there was a big black claw mark, as if a muddy claw had been scraped down the side of him. He's still not interested in going out in the garden at night. He loved his garden, and now he can't bear it. The RSPCA said it had probably already caught something and was eating it in our garden, and that's why it didn't take Marley. It was just protecting its food when it took him down. He said that his mum first saw it, and when she did, she called the police, and they advised her to contact the RSPCA as it wasn't a police matter. But when the family contacted the RSPCA after Marley was attacked, officers from Devon and Cornwall police arrived, and they did confirm that something had been there which should not be. James said they actually sent scenes of crimes officers who took plaster casts of paw prints from the garden, which were sent to experts for analysis. They have since confirmed that they were the tracks of a large cat. Then came a more frightening encounter for James with the animal in person, in his own back garden. James, who's an engineer, said, "For the past few nights, we've noticed large footprints down the end of the garden. The animals don't want to go out. On Saturday night, I went out into the garden with the dogs. I had a big torch, and we had to resort to putting big floodlights up to scare this cat off. And I saw two large green eyes reflecting in the torchlight at the bottom of the garden. You know, you're told to make yourself appear big and aggressive and scare it off. So I shouted at it and waving my arms around, and it actually started to run towards me. That's very unusual for a big cat. So it's obviously adapting to its environment and has no fear of humans." James said, "They say you should never turn away or turn your back on a large cat, and you should never approach it. I was luckily enough that I was near the back door, so I was able to get back inside when it was coming at me, and then I didn't see it again. The dogs were still being strange though. It's not afraid of humans like they normally are. There was a fair distance between us, and it should have turned and run away, but it didn't. It was very scary. You know, we have an automatic lights on the front of the house, and we've noticed them go on as if something is moving around out there. And the dogs were still unsettled. We were told by the police that to take it any further, we would need to have it on video, and we would need a few other reports to back ours up. But it's dangerous to children. If it'll take a dog, what else will it take? So far, I've heard about 4 or 5 pet cats in Harrow Barrow that have gone missing in the past week alone. One neighbour said there used to be a large amount of deer in the field, and there hasn't been any for 4 or 5 months now. My mum's concerned for the dog's safety. One of us used to take them out on our own, let them run around. But it's got to the point where we have to take them both out on leads now, with at least 2 people at a time. It's a great concern. None of us are resting properly at night. We want to know if anyone has a video camera to catch it on, and we want to raise the issue of safety for pets, especially for children. Children are a light snack for something like this. These cats can weigh up to 180 kilos, which is more than my dad, and he's a big ex-rugby player. It's also a big concern because Cornwall thrives on farming, and it could start on cattle or sheep. He added that a local farmer had found a pile of wood chippings and logs and other items which indicated a site where the animal had possibly set up a nest or den in an area of undisturbed woodland. James added, "I made contact with several cat sanctuaries and zoos to see if any of them would be interested in taking it to one of the conservation sites where, that animal can be rehabilitated into a safe environment when it can be cared for." Unfortunately, all of the places that he contacted told him that they did not have the space or resources to take the animal. even if it was tracked and captured. Now, that same year, in the 17th of October 2019, another family dog was attacked by a panther. His terrified owners, Kaylee Holmes, 31, and husband Adam, 39, had been walking Rottweiler Cross Labrador Loke when they came face to face with a big cat in Collie Weston in North Hants. Now, the 1-year-old dog had bolted off into the woodland, and they heard him growling before he then emerged from the bushes with bloody claw marks between his eyes. Adam, a manufacturing engineer, then went to investigate and was left frozen to the spot when he looked up into a tree and saw the panther-like creature lurking in Wakeley Wood. The couple discovered Loki had also suffered cuts to his legs, and they took him to a vet's the following day, where he was given anti-inflammatory medicine to treat the wounds. The couple quickly rushed their pet back to the car, drove back to their home, and reported the incident to the police. Mum of 3, Kaylee, said, "It was about 2 or 3 times bigger than the dog, and it was all black. It was scruffy looking, had yellow eyes. Loki comes up to my knees, weighs about 41 kilo, so he's not a small dog. This thing was massive, and I don't know what else it could have been other than a cat. We noticed he was growling, and then he came back with scratch marks between his eyes, so my husband went into woodland, and that's when he saw it. It was at the bottom of a hill, and it looked right at my husband, and then it just sloped off into the undergrowth. I think he was just frozen at the time. It was about 20 metres away, but he says it felt much closer than that. We got out there as fast as we could. When we got home, we found Loki had injuries to his back legs as well as the cut to his face. You can see no domestic cat could have caused that much damage. He hasn't been himself since it happened. He's just been lying around all day and been really out of sorts. It's only today that he's, starting to get back to a normal bit of himself. It's been a very frightening experience, and I won't be taking the dog back there." I contacted the police, and I was told that there had been other similar reports made by other people. I've warned people on social media, but a lot of people are saying that we're making it up. I can totally assure them that we're not. Now, a spokeswoman for Northamptonshire Police did tell the Daily Star that the dog walkers had said that the beast was bigger than their dog. She went on to add, "We've had reports of a Rottweiler Cross Labrador dog being attacked by a large black cat in Waverley Woods, opposite Finn Shade Woods. On finding the dog, their owner noticed it was looking up into a tree, and when they looked, they described seeing a Puma, or a panther-type cat, which was much bigger than their dog." Now, the sighting is the latest in a long line of big cat sightings in Northamptonshire and nearby Rutland. Local man Craig Smith was convinced he also saw a panther in Wakeley Wood around the same time of year. In 2012, a couple spotted a big cat in the same woodlands, with other sightings being reported in the nearby village of Breton. There was also a sighting of a big cat in 2008 in Wellingborough, and in 2004, there were 6 sightings across the area in just 2 weeks alone. Chris Lawton from Rutland Wildlife Sanctuary said that the Wakeley Wood sighting could have been a panther. He said, "There have been a lot of reports of it. A lot of people have had stock going missing, such as sheep and lambs. We once had a report from someone staying at Barnsdale Lodge saying that they saw a big cat coming across the road." I was contacted recently by a witness who lives in the Clevedon area of the UK, and she shared with me her own sighting of a big cat, and she added some information on the strange attack of an ostrich that is suspected has been attacked really or died because of a large cat. The lady who got in touch with me said, "I watched the YouTube video that you did talking about big cat sightings in Gloucestershire and Portishead, and I'm sure I've seen a black cat in the back of someone's garden." Well, it was more of a field, to be honest. It's the Clevedon to Portishead Road. I live in Clevedon and my daughter lives in Portishead, and I've travelled that road every day, sometimes multiple times a day. It's just after the turning to Portishead Police Headquarters. Whatever it was bouncing along the back of a hedge, and it was a large animal, all black, and long curled up tail. I am 80% sure it was a cat. It bounced like a cat. It didn't move like a dog at all. I've been around animals my entire life. I know how a cat moves. I've never seen a dog there in all the years I've gone past, at least 20 years now. I'll send you a picture of the garden. There's a summer house and a bench in that area, and it's easily the size of the bench. I don't know if you know of the article of the Noah's Ark Animal Park. It's not far from us. Years ago, something jumped a 7-foot fence, killed the 2 emus in there. I'm sure you can find it on the internet. My sighting happened about 8 years ago. Now, I wasn't aware of the articles you mentioned, but a quick check on Google led me to it, and it is bizarre. The Guardian said, could a big cat be to blame for the death of Olivia the ostrich? Keepers at the zoo in Wraxall near Bristol are trying to work out what terrible fate has befallen Olivia, one of their 2 female ostriches. Horrified staff found Olivia very much dead. Her head had been bitten clean off, and at first they assumed a tenacious fox had slipped through the deer fence and somehow managed to bring down the 7-foot tall bird. But from the shadows, big cat experts have emerged to suggest that it might just have been one of the wild cats that prowl the area of southwest England. Chris Hall of Big Cats in Britain said there have already been several sightings in the Bristol and Gloucestershire area, so it's quite likely that one of these beasts is to blame. Ostriches are no pushover, and it would have to have been a very strong creature to try its luck with such a formidable bird. Now, the run of bad luck for the zoo's ostrich flock began when Oscar, their male ostrich, began charging a section of fence until he knocked himself senseless. The vet was called, but couldn't save him. The cat expert said he believed it was possible a big cat was in the area and could have spooked Oscar. Indeed, a sheep had recently been badly mauled, prompting one keeper to sleep out in the hope of seeing the big cat. He said, the sad thing is that if Oscar had still been around, he would have seen the fox that attacked Olivia. The females are more placid, more easily spooked. Now, I have no knowledge of ostriches at all, or how they behave, but I know they're huge animals. I find it really hard to believe that a small British fox could take on something that big. Ostriches are no pushovers. They have fierce beaks, clawed feet for a reason, and the males can fight to the death in the wild. So whatever spooked them or killed that female bird had to be big. If there was no tear or opening in the deer fence, which was quite high, how did a fox get over that fence, kill that bird, and climb back out to vanish into the night? Who knows? Now, as horrific as those reports of the death of the ostriches are, it is not the only animal sanctuary in the Bristol area that has lost animals due to unexplained deaths. I was contacted several months ago by a lass that lived in Bristol her entire life, and she had some concerning information on some unexplained animal deaths in a woodland close to her home. She said, we lived at Hollyhedge Animal Sanctuary in Barrow Gurney when my mum was a manager there. I was about 10, 11 at the time, and there are woods that joined onto the grounds of Barrow Hospital. They're long gone now. In those woods, we would often find dead animals, deer, cows, pigs and sheep, all neatly cut with what I said at the time looked like they'd been sliced in half with a laser type thing, and it was very precise. All of the adults told us young ones it was a local farmer dumping his dead livestock. I've never believed it, due to there being, deer found like this as well. A farmer wouldn't need to do that to slice an animal in half, and a poacher would just take the meat. And how were they so neatly sliced? I went on to meet a boyfriend years later who ran out of those woods whilst taking a wee one night, swearing he'd just seen a UFO in there. I'm sure there are other locals who might have some knowledge about these animal deaths if they came across them, you know, when they're walking their dogs. And what's more concerning about this subject, it's not just animals that are turning up dead in the fields of Bristol. A man was found dead, surrounded by cattle, on the 16th of August 2021. And it was reported that the man had been found in a field in Marshfield on the border with Somerset and Wiltshire. The man had died. He was local, aged in his 80s. His body was found by a dog walker, and police were alerted by the ambulance service at 5:50 p.m. His next of kin are aware. It's a very sad story. Now, a report in a local newspaper revealed that a big cat had been reported to the police as it was laying dead along the roadside. Now, the scene was on the M49 near Bristol in November 2024, so quite recently. Witness Richie Cushing reported his sighting to a big cat research group on Facebook, and it is the latest report suggesting big cat activity in the country. He said, as you come off the M4, down the M49, where the M5 is, there's a big black cat lying dead in the road. I couldn't stop as I was towing my caravan, but it was too big to be a domestic cat. Wildlife expert and taxidermist John McGowan, who also starred in a hit documentary, Panthera Britannica, is not surprised by the latest development. He said, big cats are killed on British roads more commonly than you might think. The authorities have been known to send out teams of people in unmarked vehicles to recover the bodies of cats killed on our roads before the press or witnesses can record the evidence. Now, in an area close by, there is another account of a large black cat and a strange, unexplained death within a few hundred yards of each other. Now, a local woman who's said to have seen a large cat close to her home in May of 2020. She said she was out walking a dog when she was left stunned after spotting a big cat in the fields and woods around her home in Emerson's Green in South Gloucestershire in May. The animal even picked up a scent and began to walk towards her. It was not scared of her, and it seemed in fact to be stalking her. She said she believed the animal picked up on the fact that she was in the area. Just a few hundred feet away is a very strange and unexplained death, and that took place on the 6th of May 2024, so last year. Human remains have been found in a field on the outskirts of Bristol, police have confirmed. Avon and Somerset police were called to Lyde Green just before midday on Tuesday, with fire crews also in attendance. 4 vehicles have been seen at Apple Grove, a cul-de-sac next to a green space and a lake. Police said the remains are yet to be identified, and the death is currently being treated as unexplained, adding that further searches would be carried out at a later date. This case is still unsolved. Now, a big cat is seen in Lee Bay in 2019. This report went into the paranormal database. 25th of August, actually, 2019. The Bristol Post published the following article by Max Baker and Alexander Brock entitled Bristol Man Spots a Puma While on Holiday. Now, a man claims he had a tense encounter with a puma while holidaying near the coast. Max Tennant was enjoying a holiday in Woolacombe when he spotted the reddish-brown creature 100 metres ahead of him. He watched it stroll up and down for around 30 seconds on the cliffs above Lee Bay before his dogs disturbed the creature, and reports Somerset Live. Now, previously a skeptic, he says the sighting has convinced him that the Beast of Exmoor stories from the area are real. He added he'd also spoken to a farmer who believes the big cat was responsible for killing livestock. Describing the mysterious encounter, Mr. Tennant said, it was like nothing I'd ever seen before. I've got 7 or 8 snaps of it in different positions, but they're not great and not good quality as it was on my phone. At first, I thought it was a fox, as it had quite a reddish colour to it, and then I realised it was way too big, and the tail was massive. I've got a large border collie, and it was much bigger than my dog. and the tail was about a metre long, with a distinct white bobble at the end. It had black marks on its face. And we googled pumas. We found they can come in a variety of colours, and I know there are big cats out there. Mr. Tennant added he wasn't scared as he watched the creature from afar. So, as you can see from the small selection I've shared tonight, big cats are being seen all across the UK. One of our witnesses spoke about hearing growls at home, and it was something I wanted to touch on. It's quite personal, it's something I've not spoken about before. I had a very strange experience recently. I was sat working in my bedroom, as I often do, in bed, on my laptop. I was actually working on a podcast, and my dog Roy was lay at the side of me. And for no reason that I could see, a picture of a wolf that I have on the wall. I was actually working on a Dogman story at the time, moved slightly. And as the picture moved, my dog looked at it directly and started to snarl. His legs were splayed, his hackles were up, his eyes were rolling in his head. I've only ever seen him like that once before, and that happened on a night just before I had a night terror. I did the same thing. He was snapping and snarling at the wall, and he looked at whatever it was that was terrifying him as it seemed to move out of the room. I was absolutely terrified. I chatted with my husband, and my husband came in. We couldn't see anything, we couldn't find anything. I was even trying to wrap my brains to think maybe it'd been a mouse or something like that. Nothing, we couldn't find anything, and just kind of filed it away as a very creepy experience. And then last night we were in bed watching something on the laptop. We were watching a crime series, myself and my husband. And the dog was asleep underneath the quilt on my husband's side, as he normally is. And for no reasons whatsoever, we don't understand why, he suddenly jumped up out of bed and he started to growl aggressively at the bedroom door. Stance was the same, eyes rolling back, ears back, full on, making himself look as big as he could and as much of a threat as he could as the door moved. And once again, he watched something, and both me and my husband said it at the same time, as it walked across the room and went towards a cupboard in the corner. He was up, he was on point, he was growling at that corner, growling, growling, growling. As we went to get up to show him that there was nothing there, he was snapping at us to get back and behind him. It was a threat. It took us quite a long time to calm him down, actually. And we even had to the point of opening the cupboard door to show him that there was nothing in there. And he was on point for most of the night, and which is a really, really strange behaviour for him. So I don't know, I don't understand, but I now know what it feels like to have growls. Because the bit I forgot, the important bit, as per usual, the first time it happened when the picture moved, we actually heard a growl come from the corner, but I wasn't too sure if that was him in a different tone. I can't be 100%, but it was very unnerving and very startling. And that's why I'm sharing it with you tonight. Now, our next case tonight features a very different animal indeed. One that is far scarier than any large cat, and it was shared with me by the witness who lived at the animal sanctuary where the dead animals with precise lacerations were found. And she said, "Hi, I contacted you as I've had lots of odd things happen to me in my time. My friend told me about your podcast, and I've listened to every episode since. I've had a werewolf sighting in Bristol many years ago. I also saw 3 wolves, again in Bristol, but not werewolves, but very big wolves that nobody else saw but me. I felt like I was balmy, but I'm 100% that I saw them, and they saw me, and they looked right at me. The werewolf that I saw didn't seem to see me, or my boyfriend who I was with at the time. I was so scared, I actually wet myself. During my life, I've had lots of weird events. I've seen an alien arm above my head. It's hard to describe, but it looked like a spider-like thing. with a tiny alien face surrounded with a glowing orb. I've seen my grandfather's spirit and the ghost of a lady. I saw the lady not far from where we had the werewolf sighting. There has also been the sounds of strange growling noises at home. It sounds like something demonic is growling under a bed in my mum's spare room. That used to be my old room. I've heard it 3 or 4 times myself, and my mum has heard it on many more occasions. Again, all of this activity was within a short distance from where I saw the werewolf and the lady's ghost. I think all of this activity is connected to my family and the land, as my mum suffered an alien abduction in the very same area. She wouldn't talk about it for years. I've had some odd experiences that I believe are alien-like that happened surrounding my autistic, non-verbal 10-year-old son, who seems to see and feel energy changes. Me and my daughter also pick up on dark energy. We did so at Lee Woods. We didn't see it clearly with the naked eyes, as it was dark, but we saw the shape of something big, and we felt terrified and jumped into the car. There's a few more odd things that have happened, things my mum and children have seen. I think one that always stays with me, that I think of more than most, is the experience with the werewolf. I remember how it looked as it just stood there, and it was the size of a pony. It was on all fours, standing on a mound of grass, and it was jet black. I didn't see its eyes or its face, as it wasn't facing me head on, but it looked almost majestic. It was definitely covered in hair, as you could see it blowing about. It was absolutely massive and shaped like a German Shepherd. I don't know what else it could be. I've seen all shapes and sizes of dogs with my mum's animal rescue work. This was way bigger than a Great Dane. It should have seen us, and it would definitely have heard us, as we had to run in its direction to get to the long path on the hill. I honestly thought it was coming for me from the other side of the woods. It'd be interesting to see if any other people have had sightings around this area. I've shared some stories tonight that mention a predator of the animal kind. Now, we must not forget that sometimes humans can reach the deepest depths of depravity. I'd like to end our session tonight and touch on the incredibly harrowing story of a brother and sister who went out to the park to see the horses and never came home to mum and dad. This case is known nationally in the UK, and the community of Bristol felt the impact of this awful murder for decades to come. And I sometimes wonder if all of these experiences are mixed up along with the energy of an area, as our earlier witness said. Is there something about that area that attracts or puts out a negative energy? I don't know. It is a complete mystery. But as I say, the Babes in the Wood mystery is one that's gone on for over 68 years. After the murder of 2 children in Bristol, a question has remained unanswered for almost 70 years. Was it the man in the blue suit? As the city endured a heatwave in the summer of 1957, June and Royston Sheesby, aged just 7 and 5 at the time, went missing, leaving their home in Stapleton to visit some horses on Thursday, June the 20th. The siblings were never seen alive again. The disappearance led to a citywide search and a desperate appeal, with crowds of people volunteering their time to help officers search for them. That was until around 9 p.m. on July the 1st, when PC Jefferson Bro saw a small hand in the undergrowth near the river at St. Nuff's Mills Park. The hand belonged to little Royston, and hidden beneath his body was the body of his elder sister. At a press conference, police declared the siblings had been murdered, and that they had both sustained fractured skulls, having been bludgeoned with a blunt instrument. Bristol's Babes in the Wood murders became the subject of one of the biggest police investigations the country had ever seen, with a mental institution at the focus of it, and decades later it still remains unsolved. The children had lived on Brockworth Crescent with Mum Barbara and Dad Jesse when they went hand in hand to see the horse at a nearby field. Distracted by decorating, Barbara realised her children had not come home at 7 p.m. and immediately called the police. Thousands of people volunteered, and police officers gave up rest days in search for the missing children. It was days after they disappeared, the Bristol Evening Post received a letter saying the children were alive and a £200 ransom demanded. The letter writer said his brother would collect the money, but if he should be detained, I shall kill the children after 2 hours from the time he leaves here. Head of Bristol CID, Phillips, described the letter as a wicked and cruel hoax, and the search for the missing children continued. Tracker dogs from Dorchester and police divers went into the river from, all in the hope that they would find the children alive. Firemen even pumped out the water from deep Duchess Pond below Stoke Park Hospital, a popular spot for children to play in those days. Woodland, ponds and outhouses, all within a 5-mile radius of their home, were searched, and 11 days later all hopes of finding the brother and sister were shattered when PC Brough made the horrific discovery. The murder inquiry soon focused on a person known as the man in the blue suit. Aged between 45 and 50, with fair and greying hair, he had spoken to an off-duty fireman at the beauty spot while 2 children, thought to be the Sheesby children, played at the riverside. Despite 25,000 people had been questioned and more than 2,000 statements taken by police, the man in the blue suit was never identified. Another focus of the hospital attention was some of the 5,000 patients based at the nearby Stoke Park Hospital. Numerous false confessions came from the psychiatric hospital, while police checked patients' histories for violence. Among those questioned was a patient known as the storyteller, who used to sit by the river and tell children's tales of Wild West hero Davy Crockett and Swiss hero William Tell, before they came to the conclusion he was a harmless old man who had just had a genuine love of children. A 25-year-old nurse was held for 32 hours for questioning during the inquiry, but eventually released, before he said he would be forced out of Bristol over accusations he was a child murderer. An anonymous handwritten letter, written on pale blue paper, sent to the police, was said to contain vital information about the murder, and it was then the blue suit was recovered from a storeroom at Bristol Mental Hospital, and another patient was questioned multiple times, all to no avail. It wasn't until 1964 that a real breakthrough in the case was thought to have come, when Home Office psychologist Dr. Hyatt William said a man jailed for a minor offence confessed that he'd killed 2 children, but had never been charged and had since died. He said, "I believe that he was killed by his own conscience," concluded the psychiatrist. However, he refused to name the children or the prisoner, citing confidentiality. Afterwards, reporters were told the victims were a boy and a girl, with the Sheesbys being the only unsolved murder of that type. Despite constant requests to see the prisoner's confession by Bristol's Chief Constable George Twist, it was never disclosed and the murder remained unsolved. Jesse Sheesby, the children's father, said at the time, "This confirms what I already know. I was told unofficially by a policeman a few years ago that the man they suspected of murdering my children was dead." Thank you to each and every one of you that have tuned in here tonight to listen to these stories. No matter where you are in the world or what you're doing, just know that when I put these podcasts together, it's you that I'm thinking about. So if there's a story or a topic I haven't covered, or someone you'd like me to interview, just let me know and I'll do my best to make that happen. If you're a new subscriber or an old one, thank you for joining me and thank you for tuning in each week. And on that note, I will be back on the same day at the same time next week. Good night, everyone.